Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon, so should you. Enjoy your treat!
So yesterday I beat the story for Mortal Kombat 1, and I have some thoughts on it. So we're going to start with my non-spoiler review, and then I'm going to get into spoilers after this. The non-spoiler section is obviously going to be a little bit smaller, because I want to show some screenshots and stuff that I don't necessarily want people to see because the game hasn't released yet until the 19th officially, so let's just go over that right now. I'm going to throw my score right out there out the window, and I will be covering some of the other modes later on, but for what I'm going to start with, I will say the story for me was a 7 out of 10, which is actually surprising. So as of recently, I haven't really liked the Mortal Kombat stories, at least the narrative, what it was building up to and where it was going. 9 was pretty good, and I thought that like it was going to get better from there. X tended to drop the ball for me. And then when it came to 11, the story was just like so out there and like all over the place that like it ignored half the stuff that happened in like 10. You had to like read the comics to like know what was going on half the time. And I just really wasn't feeling it. I played Mortal Kombat 11 sparingly. I actually dropped it after the first week. I was playing it until Spawn came out, and then I started playing it a lot more. But I really only play it with friends. And it's kind of a shame because like Mortal Kombat's been a staple of me for a long time. So I mean, I look at the arcade machine and all that stuff. So it's just like I was really upset with that. Going into Mortal Kombat 1, I wasn't liking what I was seeing. The entire story was like leaked, and I read that and I was not happy with the direction. There's a lot of ass pulls going on, and I really didn't like where it was headed, and I was pleasantly surprised, not by the story itself, but by the execution of the story. So that's what I want to review and talk a little bit about first. The execution is done very well. A lot of times in Mortal Kombat, it's like bang, 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 going from like one death to the next death to the next death. There's very little build-up, and there is some like levity of things, but the build-up is like not really there. You're just expecting shit to go down pretty much, and I don't like that to be necessarily the case. I like to actually see the overarching narrative, and I like to see the characters interact with each other and like how they actually emote towards each other and what their personal goals are in the story, things like that. I know it's Mortal Kombat, it's a fighting game, people just want to see like guts and stuff like that. Cool, but I like to at least get into the characters that I'm trying to pick up as a main. Because I'm telling you right now, I won't play a character that I don't like. Even if like the character plays the best in the world, if I don't like the character or their personality, I'm not going to use that character. That's just like how I am personally. It gets me more invested and enthralled into a character when I actually relate to them a little bit or I like them. So that's the case for that. So necessarily speaking, Mortal Kombat 1 doesn't do that as fast, but the story is a lot shorter than usual. I beat it in like a couple hours. I don't remember exactly because I had to pause and go out and stuff like that, but I beat it in one sitting. It wasn't necessarily difficult. I did play it on normal, but I didn't lose any matches or anything like that. I did fail one of the test your might things because it caught me off guard that it was going to like happen, so I like timed out. But beyond that, the way that the characters were interacting with each other, the new characters in the new universe, there was a lot of unexplained questions that I had. It was like, how are some of these characters here? Did Liu Kang really create everything? Like, why is this like taking place right after? A lot of you know that like that know the inner workings of things. We all know that the WB games went up for sale, and they were looking for a buyer, getting the best price for it, so they're obviously not going to use Injustice 3 because that sells way less than Mortal Kombat does. So when you're giving a potential price to investors and a buyer who is going to invest money and buy your company, you want to put your next foot forward and tell the investors, hey, well, we got Mortal Kombat 1 coming out. Look at the sales for that game. You're getting your money back guaranteed just from this one company's one game that's coming out. So buy our company. And NetherRealm obviously is a part of WB Games, and now it's owned by Discovery Plus. So you can definitely see a lot of Injustice 3 in this game. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you go under the world and you'll see a bunch of Injustice assets because the backgrounds are very similar, the characters are very similar, especially with the way the characters look. The introduction screen, we all know, just the facial animations and the skeletal structure is a little bit different than it's usually done in Mortal Kombat. It's being done on Unreal Engine 4, which is obviously was going to be the next engine that they were going to use for Injustice. I thought that Mortal Kombat would have been on Unreal 5, but the game still looks great. But regardless of your opinion of that, I definitely think it's built on what they started for Injustice 3 and turned it into Mortal Kombat 1. I don't even think they were ready to go this route. The story and everything like that was kind of thrown together fairly quickly because it hadn't been worked on that much. It wasn't in development for that long. But there's a lot of history there that we can go over at any point. I do like the way that they told the story, and that's my biggest reason for liking it as much as I do. Not necessarily the things that transpired, because like I was already spoiled on them and I knew going in mainly what was going to happen and who was the villain and stuff like that. So I wasn't really surprised ever, and I wasn't really like upset at any of the things that they actually did. If anything, the way that they told the story justified the reasons for them doing it. So it's not that I like trust their storytelling going forward, but the way that they particularly did this was kind of letting me down easy, if that makes sense. Like, even though I wasn't really thrilled about the writing in the story, the narrative overall, the way that it was told did lend me to open up to it more, if that makes sense. So I think the story is worth playing. I definitely enjoyed my time with it. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and I actually ended up really enjoying my time. There were even some like emotional scenes that got me, and some really cool scenes that like were awesome. Some different narrative things that were going on. I will say that like when you mess with timelines, like things get really messy really fast. So the best way to tell a timeline story, or a time travel story for that matter, or anything that's thrown in with that kind of time manipulation stuff, is to tell a simple, closed character story, and you have that as the overarching theme. Because if you get into the weeds with it, you can get lost really fast, especially when it comes down to like the science. Even if it's like science that's just made up for that medium, it's really hard to keep consistency, and that was my biggest problem going into this. Now, I think that they did it pretty well, but towards the end it gets a little nuts. Like, I enjoyed it, but like it did get a little nuts. It didn't help that I was like throwing back some beers, so that might have actually contributed to like why I liked it so much. But in the beginning, they're smelling. In the beginning, they're telling small character arcs. They're going over characters and what their reasons for doing things are. And like I said, the story's not that long, so then at breakneck speed it pretty much like cuts through the BS and gets like right to the end, and the end is like so overwhelmingly in your face with like so much stuff going on, and there's little anecdotes here, little anecdotes there, there's characters here, characters there, and you're just like whoa, this is like really overwhelming right now. But then it does immerse you, so I think it was done fairly well. If it was me writing it, I would have led up to this point and not had this be the end arc of the first game. Because there is an after credit scene which we can get into going into the next story, but I don't know. This is not where I would have wanted the story to go, but I'm kind of okay with it being there, if that makes sense. But there's not really much that I can say any more than that for non-spoilers, because I do want to get into some spoilers just for people that have already beaten the game and want to hear my opinion on that. So if you haven't beaten the game yet and you're still waiting for the 19th to play it, this should be the end of the video for you, and then I'm going to go into the spoilers right now. There were things directly placating me as a Mortal Kombat fan, so I was very excited to see some of these things, and some of you might not care about them. Like the original timeline, Liu Kang, and the original timeline Kitana finally like acknowledging that the universe seems to be like against them having a normal happy life, and Liu insists that somewhere out in the multiverse there is them like living that boring mundane life, just being together, and they finally share a kiss, which was like really nice, because it's been like, this is like the 12th like damn game, and like we finally got that. So I mean, like, not everyone cared or wanted that, but like for me personally, I liked seeing that. And then another really cool thing that I like to see is when they're like running up the Armageddon mountain from like Mortal Kombat Armageddon or whatever. It's very similar to that with like the Tarkatan army and stuff like that. There's a lot of that going on here. When they're running up and like you're fighting, first of all, the really awesome part is they show all these like titans from different multiverses, and it's like, what if every character basically became like a titan instead of Liu Kang? And then it's like, choose who you want to actually go up the mountain with. And I don't think who you choose really matters too much, because outside of like them saying your name when they're doing stuff. I chose Liu Kang. So when you're running up the mountain with Liu Kang's constantly referring to you as Liu Kang, and I don't think anything else really changes. I reconfirmed because I talked to my brother about it, and he actually played with a different character, but we encountered the same multiversal characters while we're going up there, which was like a mechanized version of Liu Kang. There was a female versions of like Sub-Zero, Quan Chi, and Ermac. There was Sonya Blade that was like Kano. She had like eye laser and stuff like that. There was a bunch of like little things, like little characters like that, the little details that I thought would have changed. But conversing with other people, that pretty much stayed consistent. So I think they just say a different name, which is a little... that's a little annoying, because I kind of wish they threw in like different characters based on, like, they could have a pool of like, let's say like 15 characters that they make, right? And you fight like, I think like maybe 6 or 7, I didn't count, but when you're fighting those characters, it'd have been cool if like the character that you chose changed, that kind of dynamic. And if it did for you, let me know. But like me and my brother, who lives in a different state, we talked about it, and that doesn't seem to be the case. It was pretty cool. I do not like messy timeline stuff, though. I really want to be honest with that. Like, when it comes down to, like, now there's, like, a billion Liu Kangs and, like, a billion Shang Tsungs, and this one's good, or at least this one's, like, helping you, and this one's good, and this one's bad. There's a lot going on, and they didn't really focus on it too much. They focused on the story, which is why I kind of dug it. But there were other things in line there that might have bothered me a little bit, but I overall did like it. One thing I did like, first of all, I don't like that the Tarkatans were just like reduced to a disease. That kind of was annoying. But the fact that like Mileena can like transform in and out of like her Barakan state, her like Tarkatan state, I thought that was actually a good happy medium, because like Mileena fans forever have been like, make her hot and not have like a messed up looking face, and like, no, make her have a messed up looking face. This is like a happy medium in between those. Baraka's like story was so light. He's like, yeah, I was a rich merchant, and then like my family died from Tarkat, but like I didn't. Like, okay, so some of that character arcs are not that intense. It's really a main focus on like the main characters, which is like obviously like Liu Kang's there in the background playing Raiden's role as like the fire god, but we have Johnny Cage, we have Kenshi, we have Sub-Zero, we have Scorpion. So like it like really revolves around like a small group of people, which is what I kind of wanted, but I'm glad that other people got like some screen time. Like when you're going up against a fight, when you're actually using like Ashura, they're like in the fight you see like Darius and Serena, and just like it's kind of Armageddon out, and that was kind of cool. I'm still not crazy about some of the characters' designs, but like I think it pulled it off well to fit the story, so I do like that. And again, this isn't getting into the gameplay, this is just about the story overall. There were things that I'm not gonna like, and things are not gonna be for everybody, so I took that into account and didn't try to hold that against the narrative standpoint, because they're telling a story and I want to see the story that they're trying to tell. It would have been nice if they went more out of their way of like Liu Kang creating this like universe, and there are major differences, because they kind of ended up going into like the same direction but just switching players, if that makes sense. Like instead of Sub-Zero being like the good guy and like Scorpion being the bad guy, it was like flipped, and like Sub-Zero like betrayed them, and like Scorpion was like, what are you doing? No, me and like Smoke gotta like go like help the Lin Kuei and all this stuff. So there's a lot of that going on, and like the dynamics between like Mileena and Katana like weren't even really there. It's like, yeah, they're sisters, but everything was like so formal between them that you don't really get any closeness. There are some moments where you can tell that they actually care about each other, but beyond that, it was basically just like, yeah, you have this disease, it's gonna be hard for you to be like queen, so how about you just like not, you know, fight, because that's gonna bring it out of you. And they actually like get Shang Tsung to create this like this kind of formula that holds back the Tarkat disease, and that was okay, narratively speaking. They don't really like go into it too much. I didn't expect them to. Geras' role was a little weird. Liu Kang says it took eons for him to like create this universe, and then Geras I thought was like from the past timeline, but it's not, because they talk about how like it's impossible for anyone from the past timeline to actually cross over, and it turns out that when both endings were canon for Mortal Kombat 11, so Luke, and if you didn't play Aftermath, and I'm going all over the place, but if you don't play Aftermath, when you win, you're either Liu Kang or you're Shang Tsung, right? You're the Titan version of those two characters. It turns out that like Liu Kang winning wasn't like the main canon one. Shang Tsung was equally canon, but then they find out that like not only did that branch into 2 parallel timelines, and that Shang Tsung comes over to this one because he wants to like destroy everything and absorb them into his timeline. They find out there's like tons and tons and tons of timelines out there, like a plethora multiverse of like anything can happen kind of thing. And they show that at the end with some of the characters, some of the fusions, and some of like the Titan versions of the characters. Beyond that, I think it was pretty neat, the story. I don't really buy Liu Kang creating everything kind of thing. They didn't really sell it, and their excuse was kind of like, oh, well, he just created everything, and then like he gave the time power, he like gave it up, and Geras is like the one guarding the hourglass, and everybody else is just like going and doing their thing the way that like evolution intended kind of thing. And it's like, okay, cool, like I guess I can buy that Liu gave up the power because it kind of fits his personality, because he didn't want to go crazy like Kronika. But there was more explanation there that I expected that I didn't get. Like, I'm still confused about like Liu creating Geras and stuff like that, because he, like, Geras straight up tells him like, I was created, you created me in your image, so like that's why I'm bound by duty. So okay, cool, but I would like to know more, kind of. And I get they're in like this war, sort of, so they don't really have time to talk about that kind of stuff. But there's just a lot of details here and there that like were like, okay. But I still stick to it. Like, I give the story a 7 out of 10. I thought it was going to be like a 3 out of 10 when I read the script, but the execution was pretty on point, so I did like it. And this is a really hard video for me to make because I've kind of been super negative about what I've seen thus far, and I actually stopped covering Mortal Kombat news for a while because I was so upset about it. But I am glad that I did pre-order the game. I am glad that I did enjoy the story, and now I'm going to be going into the other modes. Like, I haven't played the invasion mode yet. I haven't done any of that stuff. I've done a couple fights. I did 3 fights online last night after I beat the story, and I lost all 3 matches with like Liu Kang and Goro. But I'm still kind of getting into the gameplay, so it's a lot different, and the moveset's a lot different. Like, for example, instead of Liu Kang having his bicycle kick, he does have that in his X-ray, but his bicycle kick move is transformed into like a tornado, like whirlwind kick kind of thing. So it works a little bit differently, and it doesn't extend as easily with R2. So I was having a little bit of trouble picking that up, but I'm sure I'll get it after a while. And I actually sit and lab the characters because I didn't do a tutorial or anything. I just jumped into the story and played it. But we're going to finish that here, but before we end the video, I want to talk about the poll from last video, because this video is going way too long. And the poll said, would you like to create your own weapons in Soul Calibur 7? 66% of people said yes, create a sword option fits. 23% of people said yes, but maybe just customize the weapons, not create them. And 11% said no, not interested. This is out of a pool of 222 votes. If you're not aware, at the end of every video, you go to the community tab and you take part in the poll, and your comments will be shown here as well as the poll itself, obviously, in the next video. So any thoughts are always welcome, guys. I want to thank you for watching and sitting through this long video with me. If you did get to the end of the video, in the comment section, just to make sure that we don't like mess up with this, I would like to say, let's say Hadouken. If you can just put Hadouken, I don't care if the spelling is right, Hadouken, just put that in there and I'll know that you got to the end of the video. And thank you very much for watching. Join the Discord if you want to chat about this and a bunch of other stuff, and set up gameplay matches and all kinds of cool stuff. And check out the music from the channel over there and all that other stuff. Subscribe if you haven't already. And with that being said, we're going to bring this video to a close. As I always say, guys, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.